Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the other issue is I did go through Ms. Gott's proposed revisions. A lot of it's just reformatting. There's a couple of issues that I think need to be brought out. Ms. Gott proposed adding the personnel policy in several of these provisions. Mike was not subject to the personnel policy. He's an exempt employee. And I did confirm that with him. And that's why I did not have the personnel policy in here, because the city manager is not subject to the personnel. That basically, this employment agreement is what his rights are. And there's also so it's my recommendation that where a personnel policy was added in the proposal submitted by Ms. Gott, that be taken out. Then
Jim, can you go over the jury duty? I mean, what
it's not jury duty, just waiving jury trial.
Okay.
A lot of contracts now actually have a jury trial waiver in it. In essence, you know, under Florida law and under our Constitution, you know, anybody who sues anybody can have a jury trial. A lot of employment contracts, you know, it even require arbitration. I don't even know if you want to go there, but, you know, there's the issue of whether or not you want to have the case tried in front of a jury or just let the judge decide.
If you look at Section 8B, I think that addresses that issue.
No.
Is that on yours?
Yes.
Or in our-
Yeah, I'm not looking at that other garbage.
What do you mean it addresses what?
Well, it says, basically, it's saying that severance pay shall constitute stipulated and liquidated damages and the maximum amount of financial liability for which the city may be liable. So why would there be a jury trial? And it's also saying that they waive any right to be terminated for cause or the opportunity to respond to any charges supporting such termination. So how can you get a jury trial out of that?
Because a jury trial has to be specifically waived. In other words, a contract has to specifically say you're waiving your right to a jury trial.
Okay, so she demands a jury trial. What's she going to get? 3 months severance.
I mean, she could arguably sue for other items that are included in the contract during the term of the contract.
I don't know how. This is pretty clear to me. Further, the severance payment shall constitute stipulated and liquidated damages and the maximum amount of financial liability for which the city may be liable. I think that's pretty clear. But if you want to put jury trial in there, let's do it.
So how would it read?
It would read, in consideration of severance pay upon termination, city manager waives.
No, there'd just be a paragraph that says.
Yeah, just,
both parties.
I can do this real simply. You just hang on there. Waives any right to be terminated for cause or the opportunity, at the end of that first sentence, and waives any right to a jury trial. Could do it?
No comment.
Does that do it?
I say no, but.
All right, then tell us what it should be.
I was just looking up a paragraph that I've seen in one of these agreements, so. The issue is, does council want to waive it? And then we can, if they do want to have that in there, then we come up with a provision for it.
Well, I guess spell out, Jim, what we're waiving for the trial and hold. Just tell us the different scenarios that we can go with to plug in there, I guess, is my question.
Well, no, all it says is you waive jury trial. That's all it's going to say.
Okay.
I mean, obviously going to say it in more words than that, but that's what it's going to say. There's nothing other than the right to a jury trial that's being waived in that provision.
Okay. So in other words, her recourse would be have the judge decide it.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all it is. Yeah,
Okay.
That's why. Yeah. That's
Okay,
why
I guess I should ask that first. So,
Have the judge decide what?
the case instead of a jury.
So you're saying that this contract would be thrown out if it goes to a jury trial?
No. The only thing that you have a right to a jury trial under Florida law. You are waiving that right to a jury trial.
I know.
So it'll just be saying it'll be in front of a judge.
And if you take it to a jury trial,
You can't.
or if you put that in there, I mean, if that provision is left out and she wants to go to jury trial, all she's going to get is the severance payment of 3 months. It's right in the contract.
Again, she has the right to sue for other issues in the contract. If the city's not providing her, for instance, if for whatever reason, I'll use
In other words, she's waiving due process, then just have the judge decide the case. Is that correct?
well, not due process, just that you don't have your case heard in front of the jury.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, if she argues that the city's not providing the benefits that she's entitled to, she can sue under the contract. That's got nothing to do with her termination. There's other
That's
issues.
what you're talking about.
There's other issues in the contract
Okay.
that,
Okay.
here's one that says both the town and, or this one says both the town and town manager knowingly, voluntarily, and irrevocably waive their right to a trial by jury in any civil proceedings under the contract or the agreement. That's basically what it's going to say.
That sounds good.
Okay, that can go under Section 14, general provisions.
Yes, that's where we go, yeah.
So we would have that waiver as F?
Correct.
And give me that piece of paper so that I can...
That's the way it's written on this one. anyway.
I'll get it back to you.
And do it in caps too. It's better that way. And do it in the caps too,
Why?
because it's better that way to do it that way. Mainly because when you're waiving rights, it's better to have it in bold print. Nobody can say that it didn't happen, so.
Any other items, Jim?
Like I said, the only other issue is disability. That was the only major item.
Okay.
Well, would we want to be consistent with the rest of the employees? I mean, the contract basically states throughout it that whatever, whatever benefits.
They don't have it. That's the
No,
whole
that's what I'm
point.
saying, they don't have it.
They don't have disability.
Well, no, what I'm saying is Aflac is available and other employees are able to buy it on their own if they want it. Is that not right? So if that's what's going on with the rest of the city, then I would say we'd want to stay standard.
That she would have the ability to accept.
She would have the
or not
ability
accept
to
that.
buy it from Aflac if she's interested in it. And I think there's,
I
the
agree.
city gets whatever
I agree.
rate they get. You okay with that?
Okay, say it again.
That she would be able to participate in the disability insurance that the city, that's provided by the city.
Well, it's provided by Aflac to employees to purchase.
So we would just add disability to this list of all the other kinds of insurance.
No, we're not paying for it, no.
And the question
We would be paying for it, something that's available to employees through Aflac, and they basically pay that premium themselves.
my question is do we even have to put it in there if we're not going to do it? She could do that on her own.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be in there. It doesn't have to be mentioned.
It's not in any other contracts, is it? Okay. Going back to Lorraine's copy here, on the second whereas, it says why just the city? Should that say city council in the city, or what, as far as the agreement?
Is that what the question relates to, the city council, city council?
Yeah, it's two parties to a contract.
That's fine.
So it should be city and city manager agree.
City and the city manager.
Agree.
Now, as far as the personnel policy stuff that Jim brought up, are we okay with that? Just eliminating personnel policy wherever it states in there?
Well, actually, I had a long discussion with Mike because I didn't understand many of the provisions in that original contract, and I needed a translator. When I looked through this again, after Mr. Beadle's comments, I now have some perspective on how Mr. Crotty was using the term personnel policy. So, in the first whereas, we can strike that personnel policy. In section 5, D, delta, the long green, city shall also provide city manager with other benefits as provided in the city's personnel policy to general employees. That personnel policy needs to stay, because it's describing
Right.
what the general employees have. Okay. Then,
It would stay the same then in 8, section 8.2. It would stay in that.
let me see if there's another one before then.
There isn't.
There isn't. Okay, so where are you? 8?
8.
Yes, in accordance with the city's personnel policy, it's
So
the
that
same.
would stay the same
Yes.
also.
What section?
Section 8.2, termination. Right.
We have another one, okay.
Yeah, that one would stay in there
The
also.
one with sick leave accrued in the ordinance with the city policy, that stays too, okay.
Yes.
Well, I just have a question about that because I don't know the answer to it. Are there benefits that are being provided in this contract that are inconsistent with or cumulative with what's in the personnel policy?
Say it again.
Are there benefits, are we providing benefits in this document that are different than the ones that are in the city's personnel policy?
Hank?
There could be. So let me ask you, should we go over the main points here concerning salary?
Yeah, we
discuss
should.
those, and do that first, because I have something I might want to add that would be different than the personnel policy.
And I just want to bring up one other issue. Under the retirement provision, the only question I have about that is do we,
Where are you?
5E on page 2.
Okay.
I would just recommend not specifically referring to a 401A pension plan. If the plan changes, then you have to amend the contract.
Okay.
So it would
So you
just be
just
a
put
pension plan?
yeah,
Pension plan for general employees?
yeah,
For general employees?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Taking out 401A?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only issue, is just take the 401A reference out.
Let me ask, now I'll come back to this, this is where we're going to have a question later, Frank, on this retirement, but I want to address this question. It says both city and city manager shall annually pay 5%, so she has to put in 5% and the city has to put in 5%? They both do.
I don't know about that, that was a question I had when I said, I know that, I know the employee does, I just don't know if we, I mean, I know that we do, I didn't know if she did too.
I got that from Mike.
I got that.
That's what the current thing is.
Okay, and I've got a question on that later, but we'll come back to that. Go ahead, I don't want to hold things up, I just want to...
You want us,
Start at the top.
start at the top?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just, I got more used to things here, just give me 1 second. Okay. Start at section 5.
Which one are you on, Jim's?
Yeah, with the range, then let's go over salary. And
Can we go through each of these? Can we go down, because they're,
which one are we using here?
I'm using mine because that other one is just a mess. And I want to make it clear that everything that was in that original version is in this document, but it's organized in topics and whatnot where it makes sense, and one topic is not treated in multiple places, it's treated in one place, and the sentences actually make sense.
Why don't we write it off first, that's fine.
All right, well, you want to start with first section, employment?
Yeah, I want to start with witnesses, because I'm still waiting to hear somebody talk like that. But anyway.
Okay, would you like to start
First
there?
personnel policy then goes away, and the second whereas, we add "and the city manager."
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Under 1A, there was no reference to what document Section 301 came from, so I inserted city charter,
Okay.
since it was that. That's all I have on that page.
And April 5th, the date needs to be 2013, correct?
Yeah, I went through and changed that.
Who did that one? No, sorry.
That's weird.
13 there, 13, or anniversary date needs to be changed. I'm saying, okay. And is the 15th, let's just make sure, Courtney, is that a date from your, okay. Everybody's fine with that date? Okay.
Well, you really want out.
Moving on, exclusive employment. Outside employment, everything okay there? Yes. Duties, everything fine there? Section 3.
Section 3B, there was no mention of when the performance goals would be for, so I inserted for the next evaluation period.
Correct. Okay, everybody fine, okay? All right. Hours of work, fine. Section 5, compensation and benefits, salaries. 105, I talked with Colin on it, and looked, and that's how I came up with the 105. So that was a good starting point there. Okay. Automobile allowance, we researched, Jim and I researched different cities. So it went anywhere from, I think, 400, 450 up to 700. And if I'm not mistaken, the government says if you gave them a car, it's a $7,000 expense or credit on there for income tax purposes. So I put it in. I know it wasn't something that, I think was taken out previous, but gas is expensive, and I think that if we're going to have a city manager going to meetings and so forth around the county, we need to pay for that. It shouldn't come out of their pocket to do city business, so that's why it was put in there. I don't know if it's a fair price or not, but that's just to let you know how it came about. City's wishes, or?
It's $10 a day, so, yeah.
No comment at this time. We'll have a comment period when we get through it. Thank you.
Is this supposed to be a negotiation going on here? Are we supposed to hear from Courtney as we go along to see if she's okay, or how are we doing this?
Well, let's put it this way. It would save, if we have to come back again, Courtney's here. If we want, that's why we're throwing it out and we're open about this. We get it finished tonight. If there's something Courtney doesn't like, rather than hold 2 or 3 other meetings, I figure we do it tonight. Is that fair?
350, Courtney?
Yeah, everything we've done so far is good.
I can't hear you.
Everything we've done so far is good.
Okay.
Then going on to cell phone, that came from acting city manager Jeff Pearson, that $50 is the plan with the data and so forth on it.
And before you move on, under salary, it talked about payable in installments and described them. For the 2 allowances, it didn't say how they would be paid, so Mike's allowances were paid just as part of his biweekly paycheck. So I inserted those provisions in there for how it would be paid.
That's satisfactory?
Yep.
Okay. Benefits and retirement. Actually, on this, we checked with Courtney to see how her retirement was in Titusville. We had to call her because see how the rollover worked or didn't work, and I believe this is what she asked for on that retirement plan, to be the same as the employees in the city. Okay.
Okay. The question I have on that, nothing against you, but it seems like if you're out in the healthcare environment or the corporate world, to have somebody contribute 5% of the base salary to the retirement is a lot. That seems like a lot of money to me. I'm not disagreeing with it. I just want to get it out there to see if we can kick it around. I mean, some healthcare organizations will give 1.5%, maybe even 2%, and it's just the nature of the economy. The other thing I was on that is as the economy picks back up, we could build in that we would move more towards that, but at this point in time, it just seems like a lot of money, Mr. Mayor.
I can tell, and again, when the retirement came up, I worked with Jim on this, and we checked on what we did previously, and this is not by any means near the high end, or starting to say the average end of a lot of city managers. There's an ICMA portion of it too that we paid in for Mike. So this is, I think, very fair to us when you looked at the other contracts that we've had.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, and I don't have any disagreement with that. I just kind of wanted to get it out there. It just seemed a little bit, but if it's within standards for what we're doing, I've got a comfort level with that. That's fine.
It was.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
Is that satisfactory? Okay. So
That's what Mike was, were we doing this for Mike?
we did this,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other, this is on section 5? Section 6, Councilman Beth, you had city should pay for city managers, ICMA and FCCMA dues. And
That was a mistake. I misread there. It said city manager. City manager. But that's led to another thought that we can talk about here. If the city paid for those dues as a quid pro quo, I would be interested in a commitment from the city manager that she would pursue ICMA certification. And for those who don't know what that is, that is the city management profession's equivalent of a doctor or a lawyer being board certified. And I would like to see her pursue ICMA certification, which would be at her own expense, and it would be done expeditiously. Now, I don't know what terms to put that in, because obviously it's got to be a reasonable amount of time, but I would like that to be a priority.
Well, the first question I'd have is, do you have an interest in doing that? Is that something you're interested in?
I was actually going to ask you if I could do that, but I was going to ask you to pay for it.
Well, I guess my question would be, what kind of time allocation are you looking at to complete that? I mean, is it a year process, a 2-year process? Is it 20 hours a week?
It's a 2-year process, but when I looked it up, that's typically the process. But full-time city managers have, it takes time to get that done. But yes, I was very interested in getting that certification.
How much time do you think you'd be spending weekly? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
Is it something that's like all year long, or are there specific time slots that
There's
you?
specific time slots, but the cost is the travel. So sometimes you have to go for a full, 3 or 4 days of sessions in another city. That's basically the time, that it takes to get away to do that.
Is there a test you have to take at the end? Okay. All right, so the question I have is, what happens if she doesn't pass the test?
Oh, I'll just keep taking it.
Well, you gotta ask. I mean, if it does,
And how much is this, if Courtney is asking us as part of this negotiation, how much is it to get the certificate or?
I can't answer that question right now. I'd have to look that up. Because the estimates of the travel, that sometimes you can't estimate what that cost is going to be. But I could probably put together a worst-case scenario of what the cost would be. They rotate the classes in different cities, so that's why it's hard to figure out what the cost is going to be.
Here's what bothers me about our paying for that. That is a really valuable certification to have. And if we paid for it and you went somewhere else on our dime, I wouldn't be happy. And to me, for someone to get their profession certification on their own expense says a lot to me. about that person's initiative and professionalism and so forth. Having said that, I don't know what the amount of expense is, whether we're talking hundreds or thousands or, what we are talking. So,
And I'll give you an example. When I received my AICP certification, my employer paid for that, but it took a test. But the agreement was that if I failed the test, I had to pay for the subsequent test to pass it. And there was no discussion of whether I would leave or not, but I received that certification and was there for 10 years. I could agree to putting a provision in that if I did leave, I would pay the city back.
okay.
I would agree to that. I have no intention of leaving unless you make me.
I know, but that certification program involves taking courses as well as taking tests.
Yes.
Yeah. And over a lengthy period of time in multiple topics.
Multiple areas.
Subject areas.
That's why it's hard to, the,
I moved the microphone, that might have something to do with it. Mr. Mayor, just as a point of discussion, just because we're talking about it, in the personnel policy for employees, there's educational reimbursement, and it's based on a percentage, and it also says in there that if you leave within 2 years, I believe, from the final date, then you have to pay back the money to the city that they paid for your education, which is very similar to what she's saying. So it is, that type of language is very consistent with what the personnel policy has right now.
The only thing I could think of, Lorraine, that might help with this is that we establish a period of time which this will be completed. It will be completed in whatever, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be. Because just for, if she has to take a second test, she has to take a second test. But my concern is, and again, nothing against you, Courtney, but if she doesn't pass the test, we want these qualifications as a city manager, what are we going to do? So, I don't know how many times, I know in some boards you're going to take it twice and that's it. You just can't come back. So, I mean, there has to be some provision here that says she didn't pass and what are we going to do? I mean, what are the consequences with that? Because that's what we're requiring. So, consequently, if it doesn't happen, what are we going to do? You see where I'm going? Mm-hmm.
We're requiring that for payment of the tuition, correct? Is that what you're saying, or are you saying that that's what we said you needed for this position?
Well, I was saying, if we're going to require her to have this certification, then we need to require her to have that in a certain period of time, which would be a reasonable time. I mean, not undue pressure on the lady. But if she doesn't complete it in that period of time, let's just say she gets halfway through it and says, I'm not doing this anymore. What does this contract allow us, or should it allow us to do regarding that?
I mean, are we specifically implying that we want her to have this, or are we urging her to get it? Or would like for her to get it? I mean, are we making her get this ICMA certification as a condition of future employment?
That's the question right there. That's the question.
Yes.
To me, no. It's after the fact. I mean, if we would have said that, we should have said it prior.
I'm just throwing it out there just so we don't have any gray areas.
If I could make a suggestion. I think what we could do is put in the provisions that the city would pay, and if I chose to do it, then, I would need to pass the test and so on, and those provisions that we were just talking about. In terms of connecting it to employment, perhaps it should be a performance measure in the performance evaluation rather than a contract item. Because I think in many cases there are many reasons why we don't finish something. So if I had, we had a major issue in the city that took up 6-7 months that I just didn't have time to go, and you all knew that and you understood that, then we wouldn't have to go back and change this, so we'd understand that in a performance evaluation situation.
I would rather tie it personally to that.
I just think it needs to be someplace, that's all.
Yeah, it needs to be someplace, but I don't know if we need it to be a specific item in the contract that says if she doesn't get it, then how does that affect her employment? If we put it in the performance area.
But the issue for the contract is, who's going to pay for that? That's the issue we're talking about, but in
Yeah, I
terms of.
think you can put that in the contract and that the city would, pay for it, but if I left the city within so many years, and I don't mine, whatever years you all want, that's fine with me, I don't intend to leave, and then I would pay that back to the city. And then also the provision that if I don't pass the test, or if I take it's multiple tests, that I would retake those on my own expense.
I mean, does the personnel policy cover this?
Not to the degree that you're talking.
Yeah, because this is a specific issue.
I was just making sure if it did, we just use the
And I
personnel
think
policy.
that's 2 years, and you might want to consider it a little bit longer than that,
Okay.
because it does take longer than 2 years to even get it, so.
Okay.
Not that I'm trying to strangle myself.
I would even think, 5 years to complete it, because it's my understanding it's pretty rigorous,
It is.
and we would expect you to also be doing city manager stuff.
But I love a challenge, so.
Well, how would we put something in here that basically says that we're going to pay for this, for the course and the whatever expenses are associated with the travel? Is that what we're going to be putting in the contract? And then under the performance area of it, it will stipulate this is a desire of ours, is that?
Now, try this. In the same place with, up here under dues, 6B, if city manager pursues ICMA certification, city agrees to pay the associated costs. If city manager leaves city's employment within 5 years of certification, city manager agrees to repay city for those costs. In addition, if city manager fails the test, plural, certification test, city manager agrees to pay for retaking any required tests.
Fine.
Got that, Lenore? Because I'm gonna need that language back. Not right now, but
There was one or two words that I missed toward the end. In addition, if city manager fails the test, the certified
fails the
certification tests.
test plural. Yeah.
The city manager agrees to repay for taking additional tests?
No, city manager agrees to reimburse the city for certificate, no, I'm on the test.
You're on the last part.
Okay. City manager agrees to pay for retaking any tests.
You want me to read the whole thing now? I can. If city manager pursues ICMA certification, the city agrees to pay associated costs. If city manager leaves city employment within 5 years of certification, city manager agrees to repay those costs. In addition, if city manager fails the certification test, city manager agrees to pay for retaking any test.
And where you had repay in that second thing, make that reimburse.
Okay.
Question on that? Mark?
Regarding the time, let's say she has to go to San Diego for the courses, okay, and it's a 5-day thing, whatever the case may be, for whatever, is that vacation time, or how is that handled? What is that, how's she using the time?
I think that would be work time.
Work time, I would say.
Okay, I just want to throw it out there, I'm fine with that, I just want to throw it out there.
Aren't these, are these tests state-specific? Try saying that
I don't think so.
5 times.
State specific?
No, they're,
They're not? Okay.
I'm good with that, I just want to ask the question. Okay.
Like a bar exam.
Okay. Section 7, moving on?
Before we leave that section, if you don't mind, I do want to retain my AICP certification, and I'm not sure, I know that we talked about other organizations, and there's other conferences and things like that other than ICMA and FCCMA, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that and to make sure that that's okay with you if I retain that certification. That's the planning, certified planners.
I think that we need to, since that's not going to be part of the contract here, I think that would need to be approved at a regular council meeting.
And that's fine with me, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that I would prefer to retain that if that's possible.
Okay.
Any other questions at this point? No, sir. Okay, section 7, paid leave. We need to insert a date, shall not use more than blank consecutive days. Did we
Was
agree
it
upon?
5? Was 5 the day that?
Mike had 5.
Mike's was 5. It's basically when he was going to be out of the city for more than a week, basically, is what that was.
Okay, but this is 5 consecutive
Business
business days. Okay? Just to remind, because if you get leave on a Thursday, it will take, the weekends don't count, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying, it will take up actually a calendar week if you're out for 5 business.
Just making sure. So is 5 a
Good number.
acceptable number? Okay.
Yep.
Moving on, agreement termination. I think we went over this section,
And
everything.
by the way, in 7, the word floating has to be in there. You're not paid for,
Okay.
holiday leave.
Okay. Okay. Anything else in section 8? I'm gonna think this is where I will bring something up here. I talked to our consultant on this, and he brought up the thing that,
Where are you?
on section 8,
Okay.
we're talking about, servants pay, sick leave, accrued, and so forth. This is termination, maybe I should have, hold on. Okay, let's not, I want to bring up vacation time and sick leave time be added to her contract here.
Okay.
For at least this year starting. Colin's point was that when somebody becomes a city manager and came from that type of position and been in the, we'll just use it for this term, business world, that they usually don't start from ground zero on accumulating vacation. So my recommendation is we give her to start 2 weeks and a week sick leave from day one. Then she can accrue her regular time for the first year. And you can only save, Jeff, you told me,
Yes, sir, 1.5 times your accrual rate.
Accrual rate.
And the accrual rate for a new employee is 8 hours, which should be 96 for a year, 8 times 12, if the math is right. So that would be, 148 roughly, would be the max that she would be able to accrue. Or retain, I guess, not accrue, but retain.
And my point for this year was, our new city manager has a new child, obviously going to have to take it, doctor's appointments and so forth, and she comes from a city where she had accumulated a lot of this time already. And so it was as much a gesture and to make this work smoothly. And also, as Colin said, she really should get 3 weeks for start. That is industry standard.
So we're basically starting off, she has 2 weeks vacation and 1 week sick leave, and then she accrues additional stuff as the year goes
For
on.
this year, and then she goes on to a regular 3-week
Are you writing this?
vacation.
And how much sick?
1 week.
1 week. And the 3 weeks came from our consultant. He asked for that to be added
Okay.
for when it starts
How
on
about
our
the-
anniversary dates.
City manager shall begin her employment with accrued vacation leave of 2 weeks and 1 week sick leave. And, yeah, and sick leave of 1 week. Is that right?
Yes.
That's good.
All right. Okay,
In fact, already, so we're going to
Yeah.
motion. I mean, I have them down, but.
has changed. Section 8, any further discussion on Section 8, agreement and termination? I think we did that one first. Section 9,
If you read the change in, you need to get rid of the last sentence.
okay.
Get rid of the last sentence.
Says that this agreement is terminated on such nation of not being entitled to severance pay. This is providing that they are going to get it.
Okay.
Hang on a minute, what?
So if this agreement from there to the end is,
Shall be compensated as provided in section 8A2, which is the severance pay provision, and then in the last sentence it says they're not entitled to the severance pay. So if you want to have that change, if you want to
Let me read this for just a second. Strike the last sentence, right? Strike the whole last
That's-
sentence.
yeah,
We
if you
also
wanna keep
struck
that in there, yeah.
city personnel policy also in this one too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's in the original one, and it shouldn't be in there.
okay. Okay, Section 10, any changes?
Did we strike personnel policy in here too?
I don't have that one marked. as
Did we
strict.
strike, in 10, did we strike that personnel policy too?
We need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, you got that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any changes in 11? 12?
Nope.
13? Section 14, we're adding F to that, correct?
Waive the jury trial, yes.
Okay. Any further comment on it? Okay. Courtney? Yes?
In the benefits section, commencing on April 15th, the city shall provide, does that start, I know for the regular employees, insurance doesn't really start for 60 days.
Correct.
So is this starting right away, or is it 60 days? That's my only question.
It says commencing April
I
15th.
just wanted to make sure that's how we're.
Okay.
But can the insurance policy start then? I mean, most of them require the first of the month. Do they not? And you may not know the answer to that, but I mean, again,
I don't know if the insurance would have a requirement that says, regardless of what the contract says, the insurance says if you want to add somebody, it takes X amount of time to get in there. And if that's the case, then
I think it is, and that's fine, because most insurances also end at the end of the month too, so it coincides with my current
If
policy.
you check that and make sure so we get the wording right.
So what should it be? What are you saying, Courtney?
She
If
believes
you
hers,
say commencing on April 15th, if it doesn't actually start until May 1st, that's fine, as long as
She's saying that she can't join the plan other than on the first of the month.
right.
Okay, so
she's good at Titusville till the
So the end of the
30th.
month, yeah.
So then we'll change this to commencing May 1.
You just need to make sure.
We got to make sure what we're saying is Jeff's got to find out from our insurer.
Well, if
when
you're
we
good
can
until
start.
the 30th where you are, then let's just start this May 1.
Well, shouldn't Jeff check and make sure that she can start that fast no matter what?
Well,
Some of them have 60 days. you
Yeah,
know
but
that.
she's gonna have already paid for her insurance in April, right? Because you're still gonna be there, so that'll carry her
We'll
through
carry her to the end of
to the
April.
end of it, so it could be May
And
1st.
it, well, what are you trying to make May 1st, the commencement date or the anniversary date?
No, we're over here under,
On the benefits?
Depending on your.
Section 5, benefits, D,
Yeah, I don't know.
commencing April 15th.
I got a question on the policy. A lot of policies, some of them I know, my wife worked at Orlando Health. When she got there, it didn't take in effect for 60 days. You couldn't get the insurance for 60 days because that's the way the policy is. So what I think we need to find out before we put a date in there is we have Health First? When will they allow it to
Take
be
health
on?
first to get them into the program.
Right, if they say, oh, it's 60
I,
days, then, because I know some of the contracts are, so.
Who's your insurance up in Titusville?
Sigma.
Okay.
You could word it in such a way where it would start, as soon as possible, basically, and then.
that's what I was just going to, I was going to offer a suggestion to say starts on April 15th or as soon as allowable by insurance regulations. That way, we don't, whatever the insurance is, it's not, we're not going to be able to fix or correct that. This way, we don't have to adjust the contract and be done now, because it says it's going to start on April 15th or as soon as allowable by the insurance regulations. That would cover it, I would think, but I'm not an attorney.
Okay, and I will still say, since she's covered through April the 30th, there's no reason for two employers to be covering her, so we can put commencing May 1.
It's correct.
Or as soon as insurance regulations allow.
That would be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, and it won't be like she wouldn't have the opportunity to have insurance. I mean, if you had to, you could do COBRA.
I could Cobra, yeah,
Yeah,
that's all I
Cobra.
needed to know, and I don't
Yeah.
have a problem doing that.
Okay.
I just needed to,
Okay.
that's what we intended, and that's great. and
Okay.
So you can try
Courtney,
to
other-
find out if it's going to be 60 days, then she can get COBRA for 30 days. She just needs to know.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's,
Courtney, any other?
That's the only.
Okay, thank you very much. Hearing nothing else from council, I'll open it up for public comment. Public comment on the city manager's contract. John?
John Fergus, 135 Maple. Back to the business about the ICMA certification. Details, I don't know where this goes. You talked about different issues if she left within 5 years. What if you guys bid her a due within 5 years? I didn't hear how that's answered, and that's just an issue for you guys to consider. And the other thing would be that, are you giving her 5 years to complete? And let's say she starts and you invest a couple $1,000s in her and she just gets tired of it and doesn't do it. Do you get that money back, or how does that work? Those are my questions. I'm just trying to clean up the little stuff.
Thank you. Any further comment?
Kathleen Arcarola, 25 years, Satellite Beach resident. I'm here for myself tonight, for many others that couldn't attend, because tonight is a poor choice for a meeting during a very important religious week, and also for items I feel that are not of an emergency nature. And also, it's also spring break, so a lot of parents and children and stuff are out of the city. I believe we talked about the mileage sheet with the last city manager, and that was kind of spent. I have an example here for mileage sheet I would like to give to the mayor.
And this is from what? Okay.
For $350 a month for an individual that lives in the city, the state rate that I checked on today for the Department of Professional Regulation is 0.445 cents per mile. So I did a bunch of math, and not to bore you, this means that in order to earn $350 of tax-free mileage for your city managers, you would have to drive 786 miles a month, which I doubt very much she is going to do. The city is only 3.2 square miles. I don't know how you can compare that to other counties when their square mileage is so different than ours, so I don't feel like that was an adequate comparison at all. We should have our city manager record on a mileage sheet like we do for the government and the state at a mileage rate of either the state or the government, or come up with some kind of figure and pay her accordingly, and that money can be used for her gas, tire changes, oil and such. That's how it's done all over the world and everywhere that I've worked. On the second thing, the cell phone, I agree that the city should give the city manager a cell phone. However, I don't feel that they should pay her a fee at the end. I feel that they should monitor the calls and texts and the activity on it, and the city would pay that fee itself with its business expenses. The 2 weeks vacation up front, I've never heard of that being an industry standard for someone that doesn't even have city manager experience yet at this point. I know the military don't get that when they get out. I feel that is excessive in nature and not warranted at this point. I find it a little disturbing that we have a new city manager that talked about the certification, how long it is and this and that, but has actually no idea at all what the cost, the base cost of the cert or exams are. Not even an inkling. And that should have been prepared and thought about and brought to this meeting to be discussed. So that leaves me a little bit wary. You guys didn't talk about probationary period or evaluation period. I saw it in the amendments to look at, but I didn't see it brought up tonight. But I would just like to suggest evaluation period for 3 and 6 months, and to keep the 6 months probationary period in case things don't work out for either yourself or Ms. Courtney. And I feel strongly that the city manager should not partake in any part of her evaluation or preparation of her evaluation at the term that whatever you guys decide.
Your time is up, the budget.
Oh, I didn't know we had a time limit anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further? Okay. Either one. Thank you.
Before she starts, may I ask John what his points were again? I'm trying to write those down. There was certification, regarding the certification, under what circumstances?
Okay. You addressed if she left voluntarily
Right.
within 5 years. What if you guys say you're out of here within
Okay.
5 years? And then the other was if she starts it, you invest some money in it, and then during that period of time that she was going to complete it, 5 years, I believe, it's not done, she doesn't take the test, she doesn't pass the test. You've invested several $1,000s and there's nothing in return.
Okay, thank you.
Joanne Regan, resident. I had thought about talking to you about that I didn't think starting her baseline vacation was a very smart way to greet our new chief executive, but you've already handled that. But I've listened to, as you've discussed, all of the provisions, and I think that a big expense has gone into recruiting our new city manager, and I think it would be not a good idea to not consider the cost of retaining somebody once you've spent a lot of money to bring them here. I don't think it's wise to nickel and dime and to require that they do something like log mileage. That's certainly not a road to retention. So I think that without giving away the farm, which I don't think you have, I think it's a smart investment to prepare a good package, something that would make Ms. Barker want to stay with our city and feel like she's rewarded for her efforts, and it's an incentive, and I think it's a smart way to spend money. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Steve Headley, resident. I'm only going on the contract that was posted on the website. I would like to call your attention to that's section 11, outside activities.
Section 11?
Yes, sir, outside activities. Let me know when I can. Okay. I called an employment lawyer today about this, and the problem is that the terms here are ambiguous. For example, Mark and Frank, you guys coached Little League. That would be teaching, and you know that you probably spent more than 10 hours teaching baseball or whatever. The other thing is, the employment lawyer told me that unless you can directly tie an outside activity into their job here, you have no legal right to restrict that outside activity. The law has changed in the past 20 years on this. The best thing was, the best case that he brought up was the Coke Pepsi case, that if you worked for Pepsi, you could not have Coke literally in your house. Well, now you can, because it does not affect your performance. It does not affect your job. Frank, you're shaking your head. Am I missing?
No, you're fine. I'm just looking, I don't see it in our new one.
Yeah, it's been taken out.
It's been taken out, Steve. That's fine, but no, the reason I just want to make sure, the reason I was looking here was to make sure that...
No problem.
No.
But this gets back also to a thing of, we're coming here basically blind. If you guys want our input, this is not the first time this has happened. If you guys want our input, and I'm assuming that you do, because you've been real good allowing people to talk, it would be nice to have documents that are going to be discussed on the web, even up to the point where we walk in the door. It's not that difficult.
we had to, this was submitted by a council member over and above, that's just a council member's.
I understand that, but when we walked in, you guys immediately switched to that document.
When we walked in though, Steve, all I had was the document that you had.
Right.
It just would be nice.
We'd have to have that out on
This
the
is-
table
Yeah,
somehow.
Yeah, this is not the first time a document has suddenly appeared and you guys have started to talk about it. It needs to be changed.
We'll make sure we get some more copies on the table if we have them up here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further?
I agree with
Yeah.
Steve. When these things come out, we need to make them available as soon as we can make them available.
I agree.
This was sent out yesterday.
Well, I'm just saying, it could have
All
gone
I'm
on the
just saying is-
website, could have gone on the website this morning.
Right. I'm saying if it appears on our desk, we can make sure we have a few copies here. We might not have enough to go around to everybody that people can share. At least we make the effort to have them out.
Yes, there was the email that indicated bring your comments to the meeting. And that is why it wasn't disseminated on the web. So in the future, if that's the case, I will get confirmation from the city manager through the mayor, and we will put it up on the web. I have no problem doing that.
Great. And I think if we can get a few printed copies for here, if it's
that would help.
on our table. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Any further public comment? Hearing none, I will bring it back closed public comment. I have one on, someone said on the leave, just to make this straight. How the vacation came up is, this is pretty standard in the industry. This came from our consultant, who absolutely said, in all the contracts that he does, he says that's 3 weeks is the minimum. So it is done other places. Other comments from council on any of the questions that,
Is there something that you're looking at putting in as far as some of the items that John brought up under the,
I can include that. I haven't got any wording right now, but what we can do is talk about the concept, and then I can wordsmith it.
the concept of we cause Courtney to leave by us terminating. And I don't think she owes us.
We pay for it at that point.
Right, at that point, I think we pay for it.
I think so, too.
We terminated, she didn't
how
terminate.
about the one where after she,
Loses
we
interest.
spent $2,000 or $3,000 and she decides.
I thought we already covered that she had a 5-year period to do it.
Yeah.
And that if she did not, then she will incur the expenses that it took that we have spent on that. Isn't that what we?
No, I think what we said was if she leaves within a 5-year period of her completing the certification, or if she fails a test, she agrees to take additional tests. But we didn't say anything about if she, just decides she doesn't want to do it.
I
So
think
if we
we would
invest the
charge her
money-
for any fee
Okay,
that we
then we
incurred until, if she doesn't.
Yeah, we can add, are you comfortable with 5 years for completing this? Okay, then we could add that if you fail to complete within 5 years, then you will reimburse the city for certification costs incurred to date.
That's well said, yeah. No,
And the other one I had here is on Steve's, number 11 is not in yours concerning outside work here.
It's actually on page 1.
Okay, 1E, I couldn't find it here, so that's why I said it again, I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay.
Give me a legal opinion on that, my two, Westford. Jim, what do you?
I don't know that it's a problem. I mean, I understand what Steve's saying, but, historically, this has not been an issue, so. And I think that the context of what this agreement deals with is not the example that he used. I think it's more of the professional type activities than it is what he's talking about. Mike was involved in ICMA ethics stuff, if I remember right, so he took time to do that kind of stuff. And that's more what it's dealing with, is more of that.
Okay. Everybody else feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, and it says that it's engaged in non-city business, and the example cited was coaching. Well, coaching is not teaching, not in a professional environment like this.
Okay.
I'm fine. Yeah.
All right, any other?
Are you happy?
Yes.
Okay, move to approve this employment agreement as amended.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gotts, second by Vice Mayor Brimer to approve as amended. Any further comment? Let me ask one question here. When will we get this back?
Tonight,
Thank you.
is that fast enough?
Thank you very much.
Mayor, actually, I did have one more, sorry. As you know, the city of Titusville very much embroiled in an argument with the school board on the school closures, and they voted last evening to enter into the injunction process with the Brevard County. And I'm primarily the expert witness in those proceedings, so I will need to finish that out with the city of Titusville. And so I was hoping that I could get your concurrence in doing that. And that's really the only outstanding issue that I would be, involved with that should be on April 15th.
Okay, I'll amend my motion to approve this agreement as amended, with the understanding that Ms. Barker will complete her ongoing activities with the city of Titusville in relation to the school board. I got it?
I have an amended motion. I'm good to go. Okay. Second by Vice Mayor Brimer. Any further discussion from council? Hearing none, Lenore?
Councilman Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Bott?
Yes.
Mayor Patino?
Yes. Motion passes. I'll get it signed, and Courtney, welcome, and thank you very much. And, further business. Oh, one thing, I attended the movie in the park. It was pretty interesting. It was great. So next time they do it, try to go. It was good. So.
You don't need to move it, just close it.
Yes, it was great. So anyway, here, no further business. Oh,
Mayor, I'm going to be out of the office for Thursday and Friday. Just want to let everybody know.
no. He's already talked about it.
He's already
Okay.
slacking off.
Or no further business.
No, I'm working. I'm working.
Meeting's adjourned.
I'm gonna do this, I'll send it to you, and then you can get it to whoever it needs to be, so watch your email tonight. Watch your back and watch your email. Okay?
But we're good. It is what it is. Florida League of Cities, if you're Space Coast League of Cities, for the 8th. I'm going. I invited Courtney to go with her. Oh, I think good. God stay home.
Or councilwoman.
Councilwoman.